Welcome back to season 2 of The Human Role. My name is Tiana Neal. I will be your solo host now. Thank you so much for joining again to listen in to episode 1 of season 2. So, though, as many of you may already know, my prior co host in season 1 stepped away for other opportunities, but I will be continuing to bring you more insight into the HR and payroll industry, along with many, many special guests. I'm really, really excited for this season just because I do have a good list to line up of topics to discuss, any type of like new updates, but most importantly, a lot of, colleagues from the industry that are really, really, solid in their experience and are just eager to share a lot of like insight into what their experience has been. So if you're in this industry, please continue to listen in just to continue to gather more information and add to your experience. But if you're new in the industry, or if you've been thinking about potentially getting into the industry in this way, these podcasts will be really, really good just for you to gain, extra insight and really have that added knowledge, right, of someone who already has the experience in this specific field. So definitely want to say Happy New Year to everyone. I know this is the first episode kicking off of the year. Of course, we're into week 2, but unfortunately, I, seemingly got the ugly C word last week. And so it's pretty man down for a solid 5 days, definitely on the up and up now. So I hope everyone's new year started off, much better than mine. But I'm neither here nor there. Still wanted to, chime in and bring you all some additional insight to what January could really, really look like for a payroll professional, but then also give employees some, insight on how to handle January when you're anxiously waiting for your W-2s, right? I know that could be a big deal as people are wanting to file their taxes and get that going. So from my end, the first episode, I think I'm just going to keep it fairly simple, straight and to the point, because on a go forward basis, I'm definitely going to now be launching 2 episodes each month. And our biggie episode, which will be coming up in a couple of weeks, will be with a really, really amazing special guest. And so I really want to save my longer conversation for that episode, but wanted to at least, bring everyone into the new year, right? And provide, a brief little snippet of what January could bring for someone in the payroll and HR seat. So first, big thing, of course, are the W-2s. So many of you are probably anxiously waiting. So I think for my HR and payroll specialist, I really hope your November and December went well. For, some of you, you may already be in the process of reviewing and close to being able to approve the W-2s to be sent out, right? There could be others to where you have last minute out of sequence payrolls that need to be done, maybe last minute adjustments that came through that you got hit with, maybe employees that have social security number changes. So maybe you're working on sending those amendments through. There could be a number of different things that could cause the delay of your W-2s being approved and sent out. So, for everyone, who may or may not know, the W-2s do not have to be postmarked until January 31st. So please be patient. It is already just the beginning, of January. So if you don't already have those listed, if they have not already been mailed out to employee populations, if they are not already posted online through your HCM providers, there are still a couple more weeks left to get those out to the population. So for all my employees, just please remain patient during this time. You will get your W-2. I'm sure of it. I do trust that my payroll professionals are definitely wanting to get these done and over with more than you, right? So just make sure that you're not, bothering them too much as they have their head down trying to get through everything from last year. But then also too, it is the current year, right? And so they are trying to also pay you in current for the pay periods that are coming up, as well as making sure the W-2s are getting out. So there's a lot going on internally from their end. So to my payroll and HR people, please continue to take your time as you're going through reviewing all the boxes of the W-2s and making sure everything looks good, making sure there is no negative balances or no errors when you're reviewing everything. If you do have any out of sequence payrolls that are coming through, just make sure you're processing those accordingly, right? I know also too, depending on how large population is, you're probably needing to upload the employer portion of costs for the benefits on the W-2. So just making sure those are getting into the right boxes. There's a lot of things to really make sure you're covering all of your bases so there are no issues. And you definitely don't want to rush through and really miss something, right? You don't want to pull a report and not include all populations. And then all of a sudden, there's a bulk of employees that are missing something on their W-2. Those are all like things that could happen naturally, right? Everyone's human. Everyone could, make a mistake, but you really just want to make sure you are having your quiet time in your own space, reviewing everything and doing it very diligently so that there are no misses along the way. Separately from that too, now that we're getting into the new year, a lot of balances need to be reset. So if you're talking about your time off policies, hopefully those are already configured in your HCM system. So hopefully when you set things up in your HCM system for your time off policies, that those were automatically set to reset. But if not, I definitely would want to get those uploaded manually and make sure that those are reset properly before your first payroll. If for some reason you had to go through your first payroll and those balances did not get set, you definitely want to make sure that you're doing those adjustments, making sure that if you're on an accrual basis, that first pay period that you've been processing does get updated so an employee's balances reflect correctly. Also, to any other type of like deduction codes, maybe there's advances that you do throughout the year. Maybe those need to be reset at the, now that the end of the year is over with, so that if an employee does get an advance this year, they can get like the full amount limit that your company has in place. So just want to make sure you're going through all of your proper deduction codes and making sure that those are successful for the launch of the new year. Alongside that, just make sure your employees have the new payroll calendar and, of course, the new holidays, which is always exciting, right? Everyone's excited to see what's the next holiday that they get off, right? So you want to just make sure if you did not get around to doing that at the end of the year last year, making sure you get the payroll schedule out, making sure you get all the holidays out to your population, especially if you've gone through like a merger and acquisition. I know January 1st is always like the safe date, right? The beginning of a new year, right? When you're going through an acquisition or the beginning of a new quarter is always really a safe bet to go through to bring on like a new population of employees. So if you do have a group that may not be familiar with your payroll calendar, may not be familiar with your holidays, just making sure that those get sent out into your normal tenure population. Maybe there were some new hires that came through at the end of the last year. Maybe your employees just want, a fresh set of dates, right? Just make sure that those are sent out. Maybe it's through email, maybe it's through a company share drive. It could be a shared folder that your company has already set up in place. Or if you're using your HCM system too, usually there's a homepage that you can set up that has all those updates and has those links to certain things, right? So making sure that your homepage is updated properly and accordingly for the new year. I know that a lot of employees really look for that and it's really important for them. So you want to just make sure you're staying up to speed with that piece. So as I mentioned, lots going into it, a lot more than what people really think, right? Think about a lot of employee populations obviously just want their W-2. They have no clue of like all the granular things that come into factor here. So you really just want to make sure you're staying up to speed with that. Hopefully if in your role, maybe you have, a team that you can delegate certain stuff to. If you're the director or manager and you're reviewing all the W-2s, maybe have your payroll specialist or, maybe a separate supervisor kind of go through and update some of the other small stuff, right? That way, we're splitting the duties and making sure everything gets, done so that nothing gets, dropped along the way is really critical as well. And then, for employees, any employees that are listening in, definitely take this time to go through and review your W-4 forms, all of your state forms would be really, really critical, especially if you've had any type of name change or as you're going through your filing season, maybe you were claiming 1 or 2 and you could have actually claimed 3 to 4, or maybe you try to claim 4 and you really should have only been claiming 1. You find out those things when you're going to file your taxes. And so you want to make sure you go through and review your W-4 forms and update those forms and update your state forms so that you don't have any continued issues throughout this year, right? Because the longer it goes, the more kind of a bad situation you're in down the line. And so just making sure we do have to pay our taxes, just pay them. They're not fun, but it's better than getting like penalized right down the line for you as well. So just making sure all of that's being checked. And once the W-2s come out to employees, just if you have not already gone in and like November, December, and reviewed your social security number, reviewed your name, and reviewed your addresses, make sure when you get your W-2, as soon as you get your W-2, please, if you saw the little funny in a couple of episodes ago where one year I was the one processing and I didn't review my W-2, and then I had a wrong number in my social security number, just making sure that as soon as you get your W-2, you at least review that. Even if you don't file until, a month or two from now, just make sure you get in and you review your social, review the dollar amounts, review your address and your name changes. More so, particularly the social security number is the most important. Names are also, can be most important. And address, not so much. You just want to make sure you can update your address in your on your company side so that any type of future notifications from your company are going to the correct address. But definitely a social security number could really, really affect, filing. So really just make sure those are updated. And then throughout the year, if you got married or if you got divorced and, you need to do a name change, just make sure that gets situated too, because that is really, really important and definitely most critical. And, look, January, sometimes it's a little bit calmer. Sometimes it's not for, my industry professionals. So you have to get through just the W-2s, but then also the 1095C forms. And, I know we went through that in a couple of episodes ago as well. So really just want to make sure that you all, my professionals, check the boxes, cross the T's, dot the I's, making sure everything is really, really good to go. I know my people in my payroll and HR world were really, really straight to the point, very, very organized. Definitely typically would keep up with things throughout the year, but there's always those last minute stragglers, right? Last minute people that kind of come through, throw you a wrench, or, maybe a C-suite executive that throws a curveball at the end that could just throw off, right, your whole year in. So my only recommendation is to just remain patient to my people. Just, it's a trying time. It's a rough time. It's a busy time because not a lot of people typically pay too much attention to payroll unless it's payroll day. And of course, unless it's the end of the year when it comes to W-2 season, right? And so want to just encourage everyone to stay positive throughout this time period. January is going to be, always a little bit rough. And then to employees, just keep your patience as well. Just know your payroll person is definitely working to get all of your annual forms out to you. And I know right after that, we've got audits that start coming up, and we've got a lot of employees that start asking us many, many questions, or when people go to file, if they end up owing back taxes. Look to the employee population out there. If you end up owing back taxes, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be something that you misclaimed on your end, right? And so just don't get too aggressive with your payroll person when it comes down to that, just because, you are responsible for the taxes on your side. So really want to make sure that everyone understands that, and making sure that, if you do have a question, cover all grounds of the question and make sure that you're not just automatically accusing your payroll person of doing something wrong, making sure you're just having those conversations, because that does come up a lot towards the end of the year where once someone goes and files, you're expecting to get, money back. And sometimes that's not always the case. And then sometimes there are even some tax advisors that may put you back to your company when it really is not your company's case. And so you really just want to make sure that as you're going through this process, you are even educating yourself, right, as an employee, and just making sure, okay, was there something wrong on the tax form? Did you claim head of household instead of claiming single, right? Do you actually have a dependent under head of household that could qualify you to be under head of household or not, right? So there's a couple of different things that could go into factor here. So just make sure that you are asking the right questions to your payroll professionals, but then also to your tax professionals as well. And if you do have to pay taxes this year, make sure, you get those payments completed, but then also make sure you get your W-4 and your state forms updated in your HCM system, right? In your HCM platform. That way, on a go-forward basis for 2024 and years beyond that, that you could hopefully get money back, right? Versus having to pay out money at the end of the year when you're already, of course, paying each pay period. I know taxes are a pain, but they are definitely a must. So I'm going to conclude that as episode 1, as we are now into season 2. I'm going to start, as I do these more frequently, I'll have maybe some shorter episodes, maybe some longer episodes, just depending on certain topics, maybe urgent hot industry updates too, right? As we go through new limits of the years that I kind of briefly mentioned as well. We want to just make sure we we kind of like keep you guys up to speed on that, right? So I'll make sure I continue to update everyone. Alrighty. And so look, next episode will be coming up in the next 2 weeks or so. We will be discussing another, heavy topic around the global payroll world. I will be having a really, really special guest. I'm really, really excited to have that guest on and get into more deep and better conversations when it comes to global payroll. So I want to just thank you all so much for listening in to season 2 so far. I'm really, really excited to keep this going and continue to have guests and continue to bring you all great insight on a go forward basis. So please continue to like, comment, subscribe to LinkedIn, but also to the YouTube channel. And if you have any insight or any specific topics that you are really, really interested in knowing about for yourself, please feel free to send me a one-off message or make a comment on a video and just let me know. And then I'd be happy to, add that in to the coming months as time goes on. So happy 2024, everyone. I hope everyone had a very, very happy new year. Hope you all had a great holiday. And I will see you all in a couple of weeks.